The excavation. The cherrywood box lay open on the mahogany desk, its contents scattered like evidence at a crime scene. Sofia's hands trembled as she held the DNA report, the words burning themselves into her vision. Biological father, Elias Thorne. 99.9% match. Behind her, the house was already closing in. Voices downstairs, footsteps, the sound of a door slamming. By morning, she would learn that her entire family had been lying for 23 years. By evening, she would realize that the police themselves were part of the conspiracy. And by the time she walked down that gravel driveway, she would have burned every bridge behind her. But it had all started in the attic, in the dust and silence, with a crowbar and a single rusted nail. 13 hours earlier, the morning had broken clear and cold across the Miller estate. Sofia's gloved right hand gripped the rusted crowbar, the metal worn smooth from years in the garage. She jammed the curved tip between two splintered pine floorboards, boards that hadn't been disturbed since Martha had them installed in 1987. She leaned back, feeling the resistance in her shoulders, feeling the weight of decades pressing down through the wood. The boards groaned. Her breath came steady and controlled. Around her, the attic stretched in all directions. Boxes of Christmas decorations, rolls of old fabric, a dressmaker's dummy with its head turned toward the wall like a woman refusing to watch. Dust particles hung in the slats of morning light, suspended in the thick, still air. Sofia had come to renovate. Martha was 90 now. The attic full of things that needed to be cataloged or discarded, memories sorted from junk. It was Saturday. The house was quiet, except for the sound of her work. The crowbar bit deeper into the gap. Wood fibers cracked. She felt something give, a subtle shift in the pressure against her arms. She repositioned her weight, driving the bar down in one sharp motion. A screech of nails being torn from their housings, the dry snap of old wood splintering. The sound echoed through the rafters like something breaking inside a body. One floorboard lifted, then the second. Sofia dropped the crowbar and reached into the dark cavity between the joists. Her fingers found something solid, something smooth, not dust-covered, not ancient, something wrapped in velvet. Preserved, hidden. She pulled it out slowly. The gray cloth was tattered at the edges, but the object beneath held its shape. Rectangular, dense. Sofia unwrapped it with careful movements, peeling back the layers of fabric that had protected it from the decades. Her fingers found wood underneath. Cherry wood, polished smooth. A jewelry box. Small, elegant, with a tarnished brass lock. Sofia used the small screwdriver from her belt, the one she kept clipped next to her measuring tape, to pop the latch. The lock resisted for a moment, then yielded. The lid swung open on one hinge, creaking as if waking from a long sleep. Inside, the silk lining had faded to cream, and there, carefully placed, was a manila envelope. Stapled to it was a bundle of blue airmail letters, their envelopes brittle and aged. Sofia reached for the envelope first. Her fingers brushed the front. Red ink, bold letters. Genetic analysis. Confidential. Her breath caught. She slid the paper out with trembling hands. Lines of medical jargon, names, percentages. Her eyes locked onto the words, like they were the only things in the world that mattered. Subject: Sofia V. Miller. Biological father: Elias Thorne, 99.9% match. The paper fell from her hands. It drifted down through the dust-filled air and landed on the attic floor beside her knees. Behind her, the footsteps came too fast. Rushed, heavy, the sound of someone taking the narrow attic stairs, two at a time. Sofia's head snapped up. Leo stood in the attic doorway, breathing hard. His face was a mask of anger pulled tight over something deeper, fear, maybe, or desperation. Behind him, the hallway light cast his shadow long and dark across the wooden floor. "What did you find?" His voice was low, controlled, which made it worse. Sofia scooped the box toward her chest. "Nothing, just don't." Leo moved forward. His hand shot out and grabbed her shoulder, spinning her around with enough force that her vision tilted. His other hand reached for the box, fingers clawing at the wood. "Hand it over." She drove her heel down onto his foot. The impact was solid, bone on bone. She felt him wince, felt his grip slacken for just a moment, and she used that moment. She slammed her shoulder into his chest with everything she had, all her weight behind it, her entire body a weapon. Leo's back hit the doorframe with a dull thud. The wind knocked out of him in a grunt. Sofia bolted past him into the hallway. Her boots pounded on the hardwood floor. Behind her, Leo recovered instantly. She could hear him scrambling, could hear him coming after her. His hand grabbed the back of her shirt, yanking her backward. She swung the wooden box without thinking. It was heavy enough. It was in her hand. The impact connected. The hollow crack of wood on bone. Leo's head snapped to the side, and he stumbled, his hand flying to his ear. A red mark bloomed across his cheek where the edge of the box had caught him. Sofia didn't wait to see him fall. She ran for the narrow staircase, her hand sliding roughly down the banister, splinters catching at her palm. Behind her, Leo was still moving, still coming. She could hear him cursing, could hear the heavy thud of his footsteps on the stairs above. She hit the bottom landing and sprinted for the kitchen door. The Toyota was parked on the gravel driveway, exactly where she'd left it that morning. Sofia's hands shook as she slid into the driver's seat. The engine caught and held. She threw it into reverse, tires spinning against the loose stone before gripping the asphalt beneath. The house receded in her mirror. No one emerged from the door. Not yet. She drove for 15 minutes before she slowed down, pulled over to the shoulder of an empty road. Her hands were still trembling. Sofia pulled the blue letters from the box and fanned them across the passenger seat. They were addressed in elegant, looping script to a name she recognized. Elena Miller, her mother. She unfolded the most recent letter. The paper was thin, the handwriting on it shaky, the script of someone whose hands were not steady anymore. "Elena, I sent the DNA kit as you asked. I am her father. Why do you still keep her from me?" Sofia read the sentence 3 times. Then she found a receipt inside the envelope, crisp, modern, stamped with a logo. Bright Investigations, Inc., a private investigator, and paid in full. By Elena Miller. A yellow sticky note was attached to the receipt. The handwriting was her mother's. Cold, efficient. Location confirmed. He's in the city. Sofia's fingers gripped the steering wheel so hard she thought the leather might tear. Her knuckles turned white. The realization hit her in waves. Her mother hadn't just hidden her father. Her mother had been tracking him, actively, while telling Sofia he was dead, while organizing his disappearance. The steering wheel cover creaked under the pressure of her grip. She slammed the car into gear. The tires screeched against the gravel as she pulled back onto the road, leaving a cloud of dust that hung in the air behind her like a ghost. She wasn't going home. She wasn't going to sit around waiting for Leo to find her again. There was a family dinner tonight. 7 o'clock, at the Miller house. She was supposed to skip it. That's what she'd told them. Too much work. The attic renovation was taking longer than expected. But she was going to that dinner. And she was going to make them explain. The afternoon light began to fail as Sofia drove. The road narrowed, the trees on either side growing denser, pressing in. She took the back roads, the quiet routes, the ones that no one else seemed to use on Saturday evenings. That was when she noticed the headlights. Black SUV behind her, maintaining distance, but maintaining it consistently. She told herself it was coincidence. This was a main road now. People traveled here. It meant nothing. She increased her speed by 5 miles per hour. Watched the mirror. The SUV increased its speed to match hers. Sofia's jaw tightened. She pushed harder on the accelerator. The Toyota was old, but it still had something in the engine. 60, 70. The trees became a blur. The road curved ahead, and she leaned into it. The SUV dropped back slightly, then accelerated hard. The impact came without warning. The front grille of the SUV caught Sofia's rear fender and held it, metal grinding on metal. Her car fishtailed. Her hands fought the steering wheel. Turn into it. Don't overcorrect. Feel the weight shifting. And for a moment, she thought she had it. For a moment, she thought she was going to stay on the asphalt. But the SUV swerved and hit her again, harder this time. Her car skidded toward the ditch. The right wheels caught the soft shoulder. Suddenly, there was no road underneath her, just grass, high and dead from the season. And then the car came to rest with a hard thud against the earth. Silence. Her hands gripping the wheel. The sound of her own breathing. The SUV stopped 20 yards away. The headlights blazed white against her windshield. 2 men burst from the vehicle before it even came to a complete stop. Dark hoodies. One carried a heavy iron pipe that caught the reflected light and threw it back in flashes. They were moving fast, moving with purpose, moving like they knew exactly what they were looking for. Sofia's eyes went to the passenger footwell. The crowbar was still there, the one she'd used in the attic. She grabbed it, kicked her door open. The night air hit her face, cold and sharp. The first man swung the pipe. Sofia saw it coming. She'd have maybe a quarter second to react. And she moved. She ducked low, feeling the metal whistle passed above her head by inches, feeling the air displaced by the force of it. She thrust the crowbar forward from a low position, the hook catching at his leg and jerking it sideways. He fell hard onto the asphalt, the impact knocking the breath out of him. But the second man was already moving. He tackled Sofia from the side, his shoulder connecting with her ribs. They tumbled together into the ditch, falling through the dead grass and landing hard in the dirt. Sofia's back hit the earth first, and the air exploded out of her lungs. She didn't waste breath on pain. She drove her knee up hard, felt it connect with soft tissue. The man's body spasmed. She brought her palm up in a sharp, precise strike. Palm heel to the nose, the way Martha had taught her when she was 16 and worried about walking alone to the bus stop. The man's hands flew to his face. When he pulled them away, they were dark with blood. Sofia scrambled backward, then up, her boots finding purchase in the dirt. The first man was still on the ground, gasping. The second one was curled in on himself. She ran for her car. The engine turned over. The tires spun, throwing mud into the air. It splattered across the SUV's windshield, a dark spray that caught the headlights and broke them into fragments. Sofia felt the tires grip pavement, and she accelerated, the car lurching forward onto the road. In her rearview mirror, the men were still on the ground. Neither of them moved to follow. Her hands shook. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought they might crack. But the road ahead was clear, and she drove into it, leaving the scene to recede into darkness behind her. The Miller house sat on 20 acres of manicured grounds, the mansion rising up against the darkening sky like something carved from stone. Sofia's car crunched on the gravel as she pulled into the circular drive. Through the windows, she could see the dining room was already lit. She cut the engine and sat in the silence for a moment, feeling the adrenaline still coursing through her system, feeling the weight of the blue letters in her pocket like they were concrete and she was sinking. The front door was unlocked. It always was. The house had an alarm system, and Martha believed that good people kept their doors open. Sofia stepped inside. She could hear them before she saw them. Voices in the dining room, the clink of silver on china. Elena's voice, precise and controlled. An uncle's voice. Marcus. Her brother Leo would be there too, and probably one of the extended family members. 5 place settings. 5 people waiting. But when Sofia pushed through the dining room doorway, the first thing she noticed was that they were all watching the door, waiting. Like they'd been expecting her to arrive, or like they'd been expecting something to arrive. And it didn't matter which. Elena stood at the head of the table. She was placing a silver fork beside a white china plate, the movement stiff and deliberate. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the alignment. She didn't look up. "You're late," Elena said. "We were beginning to wonder if you'd gotten cold feet about attending." Sofia felt something click inside her chest. "How did you know I was coming?" Elena still didn't look up. She picked up a framed photo from the sideboard. Sofia as a child, 5 years old, sitting on someone's shoulders. Her mother studied it for a moment, her expression cold. Then she put it back down and reached for her cell phone. Her fingers moved across the screen with practiced efficiency. Sofia watched her send a text message to someone. 2 words. "Is it done?" The response came almost immediately. A single word. "Trying." Uncle Marcus entered the room. He checked his watch and looked at Elena. Their eyes met for just a moment, a fraction of a second. But in that fraction, Sofia saw the entire truth compressed into a single, knowing glance. They both knew. They both knew what had been hidden in the attic. They both knew about Elias Thorne. They both knew everything. Sofia pulled out a chair and sat down. The chair scraped against the floor, loud in the sudden silence. Elena poured wine from a crystal decanter, the red liquid catching the light. "We should wait," Elena said, "for Leo. He's running late. Some business in the city." No one mentioned that Leo was upstairs somewhere, nursing a bruised face. No one mentioned the attic. No one mentioned anything at all. They sat in silence, and the silence pressed down like weight. 15 minutes later, the front door slammed open. Sofia didn't turn around. She heard the footsteps in the hallway, heavy, urgent. But she didn't turn around until Leo burst into the dining room and froze, staring at her with an expression of barely contained rage. "You," he said. Sofia stood up. She was holding the cherry wood box in both hands now. She didn't remember taking it from the car, didn't remember carrying it into the house. But it was there, solid and real. She walked to the center of the table and slammed the box down onto the lace cloth with enough force to shatter a crystal wine glass, red wine spread across the white fabric like a fresh wound. "Explain this, Mother." Elena looked at the box. She didn't react. She simply set down her wine glass, dabbed her mouth with a napkin, and met Sofia's eyes. "Elias Thorne didn't leave us, Sofia," she said quietly. "He was an embezzler. He stole everything Martha had. We didn't hide him to protect him. We hid him to protect our name." The words hung in the air like something physical, something you could touch and feel its shape. Sofia pulled out the legal receipt, the one that showed months of payments, years of payments, and held it up. "Then why?" Sofia said, and her voice was steady now, steady and cold. "Are you paying his legal fees?" Why are you helping him? You're not protecting the name. You're laundering money. You're helping him hide the stolen funds. Marcus started to stand. Leo was already moving toward her, his face flushed with anger or fear or some combination of both. "Give me the box," Leo said. "Give me everything you found and we can move past this. We can say nothing happened. We can keep the family intact." Sofia backed away from the table. Behind her, the hallway opened up, the living room beyond it, the stairs leading up to the second floor. She was looking for an escape route without even realizing she was doing it. Marcus grabbed her arms from behind, pinning them to her sides. She kicked back, her heel connecting with his shin, and he grunted in pain, but didn't let go. Elena was walking toward her now, moving with slow, deliberate steps. Her hand reached out toward Sofia's pocket where the letters were kept. Sofia headbutted her. The impact was solid. Elena's head snapped back, and blood sprang from her nose, bright red, startling against her white skin. "Jesus," Marcus muttered, his grip loosening slightly. Sofia drove backward, using her weight and her anger and her desperation, shoving Marcus off balance. She twisted out of his grip and grabbed a heavy brass lamp from a side table, swinging it in a wide arc. The electrical cord ripped out of the socket. The light bulb popped with a small explosion of glass and sparks. Leo backed away. Marcus backed away. For a moment, they were all frozen, the three of them in a tableau of violence and threat. The scattered evidence on the table between them, the red wine still spreading across the white cloth like something alive. "Don't move," Sofia said. She held the lamp like a weapon, backing toward the living room. Behind her, she could hear them beginning to coordinate their movements, beginning to close in. Leo tackled her from the side. They crashed onto a velvet sofa, his hands grabbing for the letters, for anything, for some way to stop this. She drove her fingers toward his eyes, and he pulled back, swearing. She rolled off the sofa, but as she hit the ground, Marcus was there, closing in from the other side. She was trapped between the sofa and the wall. Marcus was holding a heavy decorative vase now, raising it over his head like he was ready to bring it down on her skull. Sofia did the only thing she could do. She ran. The home office door was just down the hall. She threw herself through it and locked the door behind her. The sound of her breathing filled the room, sharp, ragged, animal. She could hear them gathering on the other side of the door, could hear them planning their next move. The landline was on the desk. She grabbed it with shaking hands and dialed 911, nothing but dead air. She pressed her ear to the receiver. The line was completely dead. She looked down. The phone cord had been cut cleanly, deliberately. Someone had taken the time to walk in here and sever it. Sofia moved to Elena's tablet on the desk. It was unlocked. She opened the call logs with fingers that didn't feel like they belonged to her anymore. The last call was to the local chief of police. The message below it read, "Problem at the house. Send the boys to clean it up." The message was time-stamped 3 hours ago. The boys? The men on the road. They weren't just hired thugs. They were off-duty cops, which meant there was no one to call, which meant the police weren't coming to save her, which meant the door to the office shuddered under a heavy impact. The frame around it cracked, which meant there was no one coming at all. The door shuddered again. The wood splintered. Sofia looked around the room desperately. Behind her was the bookshelf, the built-in bookshelf that she and Martha had installed years ago. She knew there was a crawl space behind it, for the HVAC ductwork, for the wiring, for all the infrastructure that kept the house alive. She ran to the bookshelf and started pulling books off, throwing them to the floor. The door burst open behind her. Marcus and Leo spilled into the room. Sofia grabbed the baseboard and pulled. It was screwed on, not nailed, and she found the screwdriver still in her back pocket. She worked frantically, her fingers flying over the metal head, twisting it over and over. The first screw popped out. The second. Leo grabbed her shirt. She drove her shoulder backward, breaking his grip. She dropped to her knees and kicked the baseboard with her heel. It splintered. She kicked again, and the thin lath behind it cracked. A hole, just barely large enough to fit through. She dove into the darkness of the crawlspace without thinking, crawling into the void between the walls, into the networks of HVAC ducts and electrical lines. Behind her, she could hear them shouting, could hear them trying to grab her feet. But she was already moving, her hands finding the edge of another duct, pulling herself forward into the deeper darkness. The passage opened up into a larger cavity. She was somewhere in the walls of the house now, somewhere in the infrastructure, somewhere hidden. She crawled forward until her hands hit something solid. Another opening. She pushed through it and found herself in the garage. The light was blinding. Sofia blinked against it, her eyes adjusting. The garage was exactly as it had been that morning, neat, organized, tools hanging on the wall. But Elena was there too, standing by her car, hand on the door handle, about to leave. They stared at each other for a moment. Sofia pulled herself out of the wall cavity, covered head to toe in white plaster dust, looking like a ghost or a monster or something that had clawed its way up from the earth. "You burned the originals, Mother," Sofia said. Her voice was hoarse. "But I scanned everything to the cloud in the car before I walked in. The DNA report, all the letters, all the evidence." Elena's face went white. "Sofia." "And it didn't go to the police," Sofia continued. She pulled out her phone and showed the screen. "It went to the state attorney and to Elias. He's waiting at the end of the driveway with his own lawyer." She pressed a button. The loading bar reached 100%. Sofia watched her mother's face as the understanding set in. The realization that it was done, that the evidence was out of their hands now, that everything she'd tried to keep hidden was about to come into the light. Elena didn't say anything. She didn't move. She just stood there, her hand still on the car door, looking at her daughter like she was looking at a stranger. Sofia turned and walked toward the driveway. The gravel crunched under her boots as she walked. Behind her, the Miller mansion was lit up against the night sky. All the windows glowing, all the rooms filled with people who were realizing now that it was over. But Sofia didn't look back. She kept her eyes forward, on the road, on the gate that marked the end of the property. A silver sedan was idling just beyond it. An older man stepped out. He had Sofia's eyes, Sofia's chin, Sofia's the two high cheekbones that no one else in the Miller family possessed. He was wearing a suit that didn't quite fit him right, like he'd bought it for this moment and hadn't had time to have it tailored. Elias Thorne looked at his daughter for the first time in her life that she could remember. "Are you ready?" he asked. His voice was careful, like he was afraid of breaking something. Sofia handed him the cherry wood box, the only thing she'd kept, the only evidence she hadn't uploaded. He took it with reverent hands, like it was something sacred. "The name is Thorne," she said. The words hung in the cold night air. Behind her, the mansion was already beginning to crumble into itself. The truth breaking through. The lies coming undone, the corruption starting to leak out into the world where it would be seen and counted and measured and judged. But Sofia didn't watch it happen. She turned away from the house, away from the life she'd lived in that place, away from the name that had never belonged to her. She walked toward the silver sedan. Elias held the passenger door open. She got in. The road stretched ahead of them, dark and empty and endless. leading away from the Miller estate and towards something else. Something new. Something that didn't yet have a shape or a name. The engine started. The sedan pulled into gear. The gravel of the driveway crunched one last time beneath the tires. Behind them, the mansion lights fell away into darkness.